coming at you from Stillwater, where yesterday Ben and I just completed the Mid-South, which we might be calling the Mud South from now on.
The muddy, muddy South. We tested some bikes and gear. Thought we'd walk you through what we picked, why we picked it, and how it fared. I tested and really enjoyed the Salsa Warbird, the original gangster gravel bike built up here in the hot pink GRX Di2 edition. There's a lot going on here. You've got mounts aplenty on the fork legs, which I did not use, on the top tube, which I didn't use because I don't like things hitting my knees when I'm out of the saddle. On the main triangle, you can run as many as 3 cages and then a 4th down below. There's a lot of tire clearance. The seat stays are bowed way out, have a little bit of flex to it, and the chain stays, as you see in a lot of gravel bikes now, is a dropped design to be able to give you tire clearance without having a very long wheelbase. One thing I appreciated was the flex in the seat post. I don't know if I can feel flex in seat stays, honestly, but in a carbon post that bows a bit, that is noticeable, and that's certainly something that's appreciated riding in group when you're getting rattled around. Like yesterday, it was super muddy and sloppy. You couldn't see the holes you were gonna hit, in part because my glasses were caked in mud half the time. So having a bike that has a bit of give to it is much appreciated. Similarly, the steering is quick enough for racing, but it's stable for gravel conditions. So I feel like Salsa has been doing this for a while and they know what they're doing. No complaints on how this bike was constructed.
This is a Y Cycles R+ gravel bike. Luckily, the bike did great, so I didn't have to question why I chose it. This was my first time riding titanium, and I am now a believer in the hype. It was super comfy, super compliant. There are washboards out here on these open ranch roads, and even though they were covered in a thick layer of slime, I was still really grateful to have the sort of chatter dampening features of titanium. The big talk around a mud year at Mid-South is clearance, and I had no issues with that. This bike, I think, can accommodate like up to a 46mm tire, and I was on 38, so I did not have to use that paint stick that a lot of the fellow riders were out using, scraping mud off their chain stays and seat stays.
The mud wreaked havoc on so many riders and so many things, but my GRX drivetrain was not one of them. I appreciated the little hook into the hoods when the bars were all greasy with mud and my gloves were covered in mud. I never felt like I was gonna slide off even when rattling around. Some people like 1x, I like 2x. I had no problem shifting big ring to small ring throughout the day. At a couple points, the cassette got so caked with mud that I couldn't get the teeth to engage, but dumped the bike in one of the numerous giant puddles on the course and it was otherwise good to go. The GRX derailleur has got a clutch in there which keeps the chain slap to a minimum. Honestly, there's so much noise and slop, I couldn't tell one way or the other what was going on there, but the shifting was good throughout the day.
Pretty basic SRAM 1x11, and I found that being in the easiest gear, going through that squirrely mud was great, and actually was able to ride a lot of the bits that other people were walking. That might just be my mad skills, I don't know.
For tires, I talked to my man Kent Avery at Vittoria. Now, 2 things to know about Ken Avery at Vittoria Tires. 1, the guy is not afraid to mess with me for a laugh. And 2, he knows tires better than just about anybody, having been designing tires for the better part of 2 decades. So when I asked him, hey, Ken, what is the hot tire for the Mid-South, and he told me the Terreno Dry, I was like, is he messing with me or is he trying to set me straight? Because as it turned out yesterday was not dry at all, but his advice was beyond tread pattern, what you need is clearance. So running a slightly skinnier tire than the standard 40mm will help you out. Now the Dry has got some fish scales down the middle, only the tiniest bit of traction, and then some shoulder knobs on the side. And Ken, you set me straight, these were excellent tires.
My tire choice, to be totally honest, we have a lot of test tires hanging around the office, and I was going through a box of those and I saw these Hutchinson overrides, and really I wanted to ride something that I hadn't ridden, and usually what I'm on is like a Maxxis Rambler, which is what comes on this build, and a lot of time on the Schwabe G1. So I thought these looked interesting, and having done the Mid-South last year on the same course on a beautiful, dry, warm, sunny day, about a week ago when I chose these tires, that was the forecast, and I thought, cool, these are like these are pretty slick, and I thought I can go really fast on these tires. When the forecast changed, I was able to justify them in a different way. They're 38s, so I know that on a mud year, the narrower the better. I also figured that the less knobs and things for mud to accumulate in between could be a good thing too. And these really essentially are almost a center slick with some really low profile tread on the sides. And I think it worked out because really, once it gets muddy, everyone is riding slicks.
A small but appreciated detail, these little mud flaps on the Camelback bottles kept most of the mud off the tip of the bottles until I lost a couple of them throughout the day. The bottle on the bottom in particular, that was key because that thing was just caked with slop.
I did throw a Specialized Power Mimic saddle on, and the saddle was no problem. And I think I spent more time sitting in it than normal. It didn't get up out of my saddle a lot for fear of losing traction in the mud. So I can really attest to sitting in this for 100 miles and not having any issues.
Frame bags are something I'm still trying to get sorted out. I ran this Apparel, which has a small pouch on one side and a bigger pouch on the right side with zippers with a big pull tab on each. The mud proved itself to be a bit of a nuisance for the zipper. It got jammed up after the first hour or so I just had to leave the thing open. It hit my knees a little bit, but it was nice to be able to get in there and get food without having to deal with my pockets, which were a big, muddy, sloppy mess.
Let's see what else. This is a top tube bag from Shimano, their new Pro line. I know Ben had some problems with his zippers, but this one has a great zipper pull, so I did not have any problems getting in and out of there. Top tube bags they're just great because you eat food, you put trash in, they can hold a lot. I kept my phone in there for fear of it getting too muddy and manky in my jersey pocket.
Another zipper that lost the battle against the mud was the fine teeth of my Gore-Tex jacket. I've got a Gore-Tex shake dry, or I should say I had a Gore-Tex shake dry jacket, which I love because it packs down to nothing, works super well, keeps the rain off, and true to Gore-Tex promises, allows you to have a bit of breathability even when you're going hard. But the fine teeth just totally jammed up in the mud. I had the thing stuck on me and finally just had a temper tantrum, had to tear it off and rip the zipper off at the end. So turns out things that work very well in road conditions do not necessarily work very well in muddy gravel conditions.
I wore a lightweight rain jacket from Velocio, and it was great. It was incredible at keeping the moisture out, and it also didn't get clammy on the inside, which is the problem with wearing an actual rain jacket. It kept me warm and dry. However, when I had to stop and pee at probably mile 30, I was totally unable to get it zipped back up. Mud had worked its way into the zipper teeth, and it has two zippers, one a top and bottom access, and neither of them would budge. So it was kind of annoying then to ride with a rain jacket open. Other than that, it was great.
Little mud south in the mouth.
Little mud south 2020.
Bottom line, our bikes, the Y and the Salsa, proved they were up to the challenge of the Oklahoma mud.
The only thing that didn't was our jacket zippers, and I think if that's all we have to complain about, things worked out okay.
Hope to see you out here next year at the Mid-South.